Hi there and welcome to today's video. I'm Jennifer, this is A Country Life, and we are prepping for Easter. So we are Catholic, it is Holy Week, and I thought it would be a fun project to make a crown of thorns with the kids. I just made a basic white bread dough that in my bread machine, just to the dough cycle. And then I gathered up my two littlest, Peter and Maria. Joe didn't want to be a part of this today, and I had them help me just cut it into strips and then work at braiding it. We weren't trying to make it, maybe we were trying to make it perfect, but anyway, this is how it all turned out. I don't think it's absolutely perfect looking, but it is looking to us like a crown anyway. So at this point, what I'm going to do is loosely cover this, let it rise for a little while. We'll come back and put an egg wash on it at that time. If you've been following along, you have seen our piñata saga this year and how it's, at first it just was not working how we wanted it to, but it seems to be coming along nicely now. That layer of masking tape that we did, that really seemed to help give it a smooth finish. So yesterday, Peter and I actually got a layer on in the morning and at night. So that is, it's not super strong, but it's getting there. So here we are, it's Wednesday, we're gonna get another coat on. I told you that I was going to do a part 2 here for the homemaker questions because there were just so many questions that came through, and I just didn't want to neglect any of them. So there is another comment here. She says, I feel so overwhelmed with everything that's going on, and I think it's so easy for all of us to feel overwhelmed. And I guess when I do find that overwhelmed feeling is starting to take over, I just kind of always think everything has its season. Everything, even when it's coming, when you're thinking about a day or a week or a month or a year, there are just going to be parts of each of those that are going to be you're going to feel productive and you're going to feel on top of the game, and then there's going to be parts that you're going to feel very unproductive and very underneath the game. And so sometimes just to have that mind, just to remind yourself that not every part of today is going to be productive and perfect. Not every part of this week is going to be, not every part of this month, this year, whatever. And just kind of think back maybe to when you can remember a part of your day, your week, your month, your year, where things were productive or things were going well, and think, well, if it happened then, it's sure to happen again here at some point. Sometimes we have longer seasons of goodness and short seasons of not such goodness, and other times we have longer seasons of difficulties and shorter times of goodness. So just kind of remember that everything does have its season. Here's a question about the cookbook. Someone was just wondering about the venison pie, if the cubed meat is cooked or raw. When I put it into there, it's raw when I start the venison pie. And then tips and tricks for cleaning the oven. Well, I have a self-cleaning mode for my oven, and that would be my only tip, is that I turn it on when the oven is at its worst and let it do its job. And then I just wipe out all that gray ashiness when it's done with its cycle. I did have a question about meal planning and prepping and what keeps me motivated to not do the same old for dinner every night. Well, tonight we're going to be having pizza burgers. I got my cheese in there when it was a little too warm today, but I mean, in the end, it's not going to matter. But pizza burgers are one of those recipes that I feel like Warren, I probably could make for him anyways, probably twice a month, and he would be happy with that. So what keeps me motivated? Well, hungry kids. That's what keeps me motivated to keep on meal planning and prepping and things like that. But when it comes to not doing the same old, you really just have to know your family. So chances are not everyone in your family likes the same exact thing or likes the same thing the same amount of times. What I mean by that is, like, let's just take, for example, Warren and I. Warren is not a new recipe kind of guy at all, even though I remind him, do you know that all your favorites were once a new recipe? But he is very content with you know, having just like some favorites and just cooking those over and over and over. Maybe change it up every once in a while, where I'm more the one who wants a new recipe every single meal. I'm like, when there's thousands of recipes out there, why would I want to make the same thing twice? So I have to come to a happy medium in there. And so when it comes to the same old, for me, it really isn't a problem, because I have family members that want the same old, and then I have me who's always wanting to change things up a little bit. I guess I would just say, just know your family, and if they like the same old, then give that to them, right? I will just offer a suggestion. If you have a family that doesn't like the same old the same rotation of meals all the time, then ask them to find recipes for you to make. If you were like kind of looking through my cookbook, you would notice that there were a number of different recipes in there that would say things like, this was a recipe that Amber brought to me and said, hey mom, can you make this? Or this is something that Emily always made, like black magic cake the last day of school, different things like that. So if they're the ones, if you're kind of happy with same old and they're the ones who are like, we want to change it up, then I say teach them to cook, or let them find recipes and let them, try some of those things. Okay, so the next question here says, how do you joyfully accept your role as homemaker? That's a hard question, because I think that some temperaments, some people just enjoy that act of serving others, taking care of others, having it done their way. That just comes easier to some people than others. But I will just tell you from my experience, because that's what my channel is all about, just my experience, is number one, for me, it didn't come right away. It isn't like just right away I was just like, oh my gosh, I just love this role as homemaker and everything that comes with it, because it can be very, very overwhelming, especially in those early years when everything is like changing so quickly. So if you are in the early stages of homemaking, I think it's pretty safe to say that you're going to maybe find your groove as things go on. Also, read. Go to Amazon, go to your library website and just type in homemaking. Type in the art of homemaking. Type in, I want to love homemaking, and you are going to run across all kinds of books. There's going to be books that come from a very holistic approach to homemaking. There's going to be the logistics of how-to and lists and management and all of that. There's going to be Christian style homemaking books that everything is related back to a Bible verse and helps you to kind of put the two and, put those things together in your mind. So I would say just start reading about it. You could also check on, you could just check right here on YouTube, just type in the art of homemaking. Type in, I'd like to be a better homemaker, or how to be a better homemaker, things like that. And I know there will be videos that are going to pop up and just give you some tips and things like that. Or it's kind of a comment about meringues, and she says, my meringues never come out right. I'm not going to offer any tips for meringues because I don't like meringue, and so I never ever make it, but I do know it has a lot to do with humidity. Let's take a little break in answering questions, and I want to show you my green onions. So remember yesterday the green part was about 1 inch. Today they are about 2 inches. Or thereabouts. So they're definitely growing. I'm really, really amazed at how quickly this is happening. And having those green onions on my windowsill brings me so much joy. I can't even express to you guys how much joy it brings to have something like that growing, just something little I can kind of check in on every day. Okay, so another woman asks if there's anything that I find myself getting behind on. And I made a quick list here. Dusting, sending cards, and my ceiling fan blades. Keeping my ceilings clean, keeping like the little dust bunnies out of the ceiling corners. I fall behind on that. I fall behind on putting away stuff where it actually really, really belongs. I fall behind on like paperwork and keeping paperwork. Just look right there. That kind of thing. I fall behind on keeping paperwork in its place. I fall behind. We do have some chest freezers that need to be defrosted. I fall behind on that. And did I say dusting? And dusting and dusting. I fall behind on those kinds of things a lot. Oh, I also fall behind on putting away holiday decorations. I actually, no, Warren actually took it down last weekend. I still had a Christmas wreath out on the front, out on our front porch. And I think I've said this before, but one time we had some people over and they were like, oh, whose birthday is it? I was like, and this was in, I want to say June. And I was like, oh, that was up from Warren's birthday, which was in March. So we still had like happy birthday banners hanging. So anyway, those are the things that I fall behind on. Okay, there's another question on homemaker burnout and how to avoid that. And I know that I answered it already, but I maybe have some other ideas here as well. So maybe just have a list of 5 things that you really, really like to do, and then just do those things. So when you're just feeling like you're burnt out and there's just so much that has to be done, just go and do your favorites, or do the ones that bring you the most joy. That would be my first tip. And then also take time to sit down. There's nothing wrong with sitting down for a little bit. So definitely take time to just sit down, read a book. I mean, even if scrolling through recipes on Pinterest, or if looking at a cookbook, or whatever it is that just offers you a little bit of joy, you know, try to keep it to a minimum amount of time. You don't want to get in the habit of, you know, 2-3 hours all the time. At least I don't. But, you know, just taking some time to sit down is important. Then I also think just getting outside, especially if it's a nice sunny day, it feels so refreshing to get outside. For us, even if it's cold, I like to just get outside, take care of my chickens, you know, maybe just attend to something. If I see like a toy that's in the yard that's been bothering me every time I look out my kitchen window, go pick that up, put that away. Something as simple as that just sometimes kind of like invigorates me again. Okay, next question here is, what is the purpose of using half shortening and half butter in recipes? So the reason that you might see in some of my recipes that I use like part shortening, part butter, it's for texture, flavor, and color. So if we look at shortening keeps cookies and things like that more compact on the cookie sheet when they're baking. It also doesn't brown quite as dark, and it also doesn't offer that buttery flavor. Now butter is going to make your cookies and things like that spread more. It's going to darken faster, but it's going to add a whole lot of color. So I usually like to do half and half. And even in a recipe that might say, well, if a recipe says all butter, you can bet I've always used all butter. But in a recipe that says shortening only, a lot of times I do half butter, and I just don't tell people that like only shortening in my household, because I have some of those people. And you know what? That's the end of the questions. Thanks, guys. I'm so happy to have answered those questions for you. I hope that you got a little bit of inspiration, and if anything, you probably got to know me a little bit better and my viewpoints on homemaking and things like that. So I need to switch over laundry right now, speaking of homemaking, and I see that there's just kind of a few things I want to pick up, put away, and we also have to attend to our bread. Yes, the bread has risen just how we want it to, so we're going to get that egg wash on shortly as well.